All right, so let's see how it goes when I put my foot in.
What do you do if you like wearing barefoot style shoes, but it starts turning really cold and wet and wintry and you want to keep your feet warm without stuffing your poor little toes into those awful coffins that people call boots? Well, then you have to start looking for winter waterproof boots that are in a barefoot style. And so today I'm going to be talking about some different options with winter boots for people who like barefoot shoes. I'm going to be talking about the Patrol winter boots that Feelgrounds, a German company, sent to me to trial and test in the California wet winter. And I'm going to be talking about how they compare to the Lems waterproof boulder boot that I got years ago. These Vivo Barefoot, I think they were called Gobi boots, but I mean, these are like maybe 4 or 5 years old. And I have a little secret about these I'll share with you later. And also the switchbacks from Softstar. I'm going to tell you what I like about the Patrols, what I dislike, and how they compare to all these other barefoot style boots. And I'm even going to talk about prices and how you can make a decision, hopefully, when you are trying to buy boots that'll fit your feet. So before we jump right into it, I want to say that Feelgrounds did send me these boots for free. So technically this is a paid promotion, but they did not pay me to do this video. They just sent me a bunch of free shoes to try out and see how I like them. And that doesn't mean that I have to say all positive things about these boots, because there are some things that I actually don't like and that I'm going to mention later in this video. Also, I want to make sure you understand that I am not a construction expert in shoes or boots or anything. I haven't been able to run super long-term testing on this, and nor have I cut these boots open to see how they're constructed, nor would I know how to interpret what I see if I were to cut these boots open. If you want a channel that actually does really cool boot reviews like that, I will link to one. It's called Rose Anvil, and I don't know if that guy has actually cut open any of these boots, but it would be great to go check him out, because I think you can learn a lot about boot construction, but you won't get that here. Here, you're just going to hear my experiences, subjective experiences with barefoot shoes. So first I want to cover some basic specs on the Patrol winter boot from Feelgrounds. Number one is the stack height. It's 13 millimeters, which is about a ½ inch of total stack height. There is a removable insole in here, a felt insole that you can remove. This is 3 millimeters, so you could make your effective stack height 10 millimeters, but the inside here, if you don't have that insole, feels kind of like not that great. So when I tried to wear these without the insole, I didn't like it, because you're basically right on top of the actual sole down here, and there's some like bumps and ridges that don't really feel right for the foot. So having that little extra bit of cushioning really helps. Effectively, you are going to be using 13 millimeters of stack height. Now, that's not the ultimate barefoot experience, I know, but this is still a very flexible, twisty, bendy sole. In my opinion, it is comfortable. It does conform to the motions my foot wants to do, and it also gives me a little bit of extra cushioning when I'm doing long walks. But if I want a thinner, more barefoot experience, this is not the boot. But if you're a normal person who is either transitioning to barefoot boots, or you want to have some extra protection because you're walking in rocks, or you're walking on sharp things, or you're walking in the streets of downtown San Francisco, and you want to have some extra cushion between you and the sharp objects like needles on the ground, then this is a pretty good option. Now, it's similar to the Lems boulder boot. I don't know the exact numbers on the boulder boot's stack height, but it's pretty darn close. It feels really close. Same thing with the switchback from Softstars. Very similar feel, although the tread on the Softstars is much more grippy and aggressive. That's not to say that the sole on the Feelground Patrol winter boot is not grippy. It actually is. I tested that in the water.
It's raining, and I have grip. They're not super grippy, but they're grippy enough. I can dig onto the rocks. These are fairly smooth rocks, and I actually get good grip. I'm not slipping at all. Let me climb a tree here. So on wood, not great. On wet wood, not great, but on concrete, this is pretty smooth concrete right here. pretty good friction.
It's definitely grippier than, say, the Boulder boot, the waterproof Boulder boot. Now, the waterproof Boulder boot, which this is, has been known to be a little bit slippery on the sole, and so they actually now have an updated version that I just saw online where it's a grippier sole. So good to know if you are in the market. The width on the toe box of the Patrol winter boot is okay. It is not the widest toe box. I have wide feet. I have to buy wide shoes. When I was a hockey player, I used to buy skates that were as wide as possible, which means I could never buy Bauer. I always had to buy CCM, which I don't even know if that company exists anymore. I had to get wider skates. I had to get the E sizes so that my foot would fit properly in the skate. Same thing with shoes. When I bought New Balance shoes, maybe 10, 20 years ago at this point, I had to get the wide size. So I have wide feet. These Patrol winter boots fit just barely. Like when I first put them on, I will feel like a little bit of squeeze happening on my pinky toe, but luckily over time that seems to just kind of go away and it doesn't feel like it's smashing my toes in a lot. If you are an average sized, average width foot, I think this probably works fine. If you're a wide foot, it could be a little bit tight. It's a little bit tight for me, but I am still able to wear these with toe socks, which means my toes have a little extra splay, and it still works. It's just right in the beginning, it doesn't feel quite that great, and I was worried about it when I put them on, but as I walk around with them, they generally feel fine. They don't crush too much. Now, if you're thinking, well, I don't really want a boot that could potentially crush my pinky toe, and I have wide feet, then I want to give you some perspective. So I have these Vivo Barefoots from a couple years ago. The secret I want to tell you is I actually bought these off the women's section because I just liked the look and color, and basically none of their shoes are at the time, none of their boots were like that feminine or masculine. They're all just kind of equal, and I just thought, like, you know what, I'm just gonna get those brown boots, and they look super flexible. The sole, the total stack height is ridiculous. I would guess it's probably around 5 millimeters. It has a removable insole, and then you're really riding on very, very little material. These boots are winter and waterproof, which is amazing. I've actually taken these in snow and they worked out just fine. I was in like shin deep snow and I still had very warm feet with no problem. Hey bud. Hey bud. Happy birthday. But these Vivo Barefoot patterns, the foot is actually about as narrow, I would say, as what is on the Patrol winter boot. They're very close. It's not like when I put these on, I have tons of room. These also will squeeze my pinky toe a little bit, especially if I'm wearing my toe socks. The lems, I think, are a little bit wider. They're a little bit more comfortable. So if you have wider feet, I would say either go with the lems, waterproof, with the grip probably. If you're gonna be in water, it makes sense to have the extra grip and the extra width. And if you really, really, really want extra width, then the primal width from Softstar in their switchback boot is probably the way to go. But even though it's nice and warm inside with this nice wool lining, these are not gusseted and these boots are not waterproof. So if you want a waterproof boot, these won't work, but they are super wide, they are warm, and they just will not perform if you need to keep super dry feet in the snow or in rain or anything like that. These are just water resistant. In terms of warmth, I think the Patrol winter boots are really good. These are made by a German company, and I gotta say that the coldest winter I think I've ever experienced was in Berlin over New Year's. I was there years ago with my wife, standing in line waiting for a doner kebab, and I was just wearing normal leather boots and like 2 pairs of socks, and my feet were freezing because like the chill just comes up through the sidewalk, and it was wet and icy on the sidewalk. So if I had had these boots, I think I would have been very happy because they are fleece lined. It's a vegan fleece. The whole boot is vegan, which that doesn't play into my feeling warm, but just so you know, it is vegan. These are warm. They have kept me warm when I've tested them. here in California. Now, is the Feelgrounds Patrol winter boot going to be warmer or less warm than the Vivo Barefoot boot? That's unfortunately not possible for me to say definitively, but I would guess that the Patrol winter boot is going to be warmer. Now, I haven't had this out a whole day in the snow like I have with the Vivo Barefoot, so I can't say for sure, but I know that the sole on this boot is much thicker, which means you've got some more insulation, you have some more distance between the bottom of your foot and the ice and snow, where with the Vivo Barefoot you've got like just a couple millimeters of difference. It is insulated in the bottom though, so your feet do stay warm and dry, but with this boot you've got much more distance. You've got, I think it was 13 millimeters stack height, and you do have the fleece lining and all that jazz. So that should help make this a warmer boot, but I don't know about all the insulating features on the inside of the Vivo Barefoot versus what's going on in terms of insulation underneath this fake leather layer. For that kind of information, you'd have to ask the guy at Rose Anvil. This winter, it has been wet and rainy, and our local park has put on some events where they had fake snow, and by fake I mean they trucked ice and snow and threw it on the grass, and then we got to play around with it, throw snowballs, etc., etc. And when I was walking around in the snow with these boots, it was fine. My feet were super warm. And when I walked around in the rain in these and even dunked my foot into a bucket of water, these worked out really well. In fact, you might be wondering just how waterproof are these boots? And I am happy to say I ran some tests to show you.
Turn on the hose here, and away we go. You can see it beads really well. It runs right off. These pants, by the way, these pants are not waterproof. So I'm trying to spray like right at the laces, see if the gusset's really doing its job. Oh, okay, so I managed to spray right under here, and I did feel it actually get wet.
So if you take a look here, you can see that it's gusseted here, so water cannot get in until it spills up and over. And if you're just spraying water down, rain is coming down, it's just going to flow off of your foot. But if you're spraying the hose sideways, that'll blast the water up into your sock.
Just spraying directly on top like this, kind of normal. That seems to be fine. I'm gonna do one more test with a bucket. All right, so let's see how it goes when I put my foot in. So I'm submerging just to just below the laces. So maybe if this were, you know, like stepping into a really deep puddle. So no problem there. I'm gonna do the other foot. Give me a second. So again, just to where it's coming, just to the laces. And I'm just hanging out there. It's been about 5 seconds. Just gonna hang out and go a little deeper. Still nothing. So no water is getting in there. That's pretty nice. My feet are pretty toasty warm right now. I've been in there at least 10 seconds. Okay, so now let's do a little deeper. I'm gonna go below the laces and see what happens. Okay, my laces are now in. So I'm actually all the way in there now. Like halfway. All right, now that's the limit. That's the limit. So once the water level hits around there, right there, now I can feel it seeping in. It's getting right into my sock, but that's pretty good, right? I can get pretty deep into a thing of water and have no intrusion of that water. You can go dip your foot in like that, no problem. Heel in, no problem. Oh, maybe a little? What did I get? Oh, because I went too deep. But heel in there, no problem. Once you get a little too far, it's gonna be a problem, but I don't know how you can get around that. That's pretty good for waterproofness, in my opinion. If you know of a boot that is like full-on waterproof, that's not like full-on like huge tall rain boot, that won't allow water in, even though it has laces, let me know, drop me a comment. But I think the fact that it has laces and a tongue means at some point you can't submerge your whole foot. You have to get big rubber boots if you want something like that. So overall, I'd say pretty good. And as far as a winter boot goes, these are good. Like, my feet are pretty warm. Even the one that I dunked in the water is not too bad.
So now that you understand that these boots are in fact waterproof, I want to talk about the thing I really dislike about these boots, and that is this. There is this little flimsy little tab back here, which you might be thinking, what do you do with that? Is this to help pull the boot on? And that doesn't seem possible, because it's not. This little tab is too short to actually get a grip on to actually help you pull this boot on, and your thumb will just slip right off when you're trying to get your shoe on your foot. Now, on every other boot that I have here, you'll see that there is this pull tab. You can actually just put a finger through it and pull so that you can put the boot on. That's true on these old Vivo Barefoots. That's also true on these Lems Boulder boots. That's also true on the switchbacks from Softstar. You can just grab this nice tab that's right up at the top. You can get a firm grip and pull the boot onto your foot over your heel. But this little tab is basically useless, and it makes putting on the boot much harder than you would think, because it means you gotta unlace way more, you gotta really pull it open and then jam your foot in and then grab around the not so easy to grab fleece and then put your foot in. Does this mean my life is over, that I just can't wear this boot because there's no pull tab? No, that's not what it means, but it does mean it is kind of annoying, and I really hope sometime in the future when they revise this boot, they consider that you might want to have a real functional pull tab on the back of the boot that functions just like you would see on any other boot. Because if you are using this as a winter boot, this little tab is probably going to be wet and cold, your hands are going to be cold, and trying to grab onto this useless little flap is going to be, well, frustrating. So if you're looking to buy some Barefoot style boots, which you probably are since you're watching this video, we need to talk about some prices and how to make some decisions. And also, whenever you do make a decision, please use the affiliate links that you'll find in the description box. It helps me make videos like this one, and it doesn't cost you any extra. All right, now that out of the way, let's talk about some key points you want to consider. Number one is the fit. Does it fit your foot? If you are somebody who has an average foot or a narrow foot, you just buy regular normal shoes, you've never had to buy E-width shoes, then you are free to choose whatever boots you want. If you're somebody who has a wide foot, then I would suggest either the Lems boot or getting a primal boot, or you can try going with the Feelgrounds Patrol Winter boot or the Vivo Barefoot boot. I don't think that these are super wide, so you may have to do some returns if they don't fit your foot well, or you can try ordering a size up and see how that works for you. And while we're on the topic of size, I do want to point out one thing that can be a concern, and it's a concern I've already communicated to Feelgrounds, and that is that their size chart may be a little bit funky, because when I measured my foot on their size chart, well, it didn't give me the right number. It was like 2 sizes off, and I don't know why. And I also checked with my wife and had her do it, and the shoe size that it gave was correct, and the shoes that we bought for her were correct. So if you are gonna buy some Feelgrounds, I strongly recommend you get their size chart, use it, and then double check with them, maybe send them an email if there's any shadow of a doubt. In the Patrol Winter boot, I'm actually a size down from my normal US size, and it seems to fit right. If I went a size up, I think the boot would be too long, but then I would have plenty of width, but then it would be too long and I'd probably be falling on my face. But with some of their other shoes, when I order a size down, they're actually too tight. So I'm not really sure exactly what kind of advice to give you, other than try some things out and be very aware of what their return policy is. And unfortunately with Feelgrounds, they are based in Europe, and they don't have the most accommodating of return policies because they're shipping overseas to the United States. And if they were eating the cost of shipping to you and then back and forth, they're probably not going to make any money selling shoes. So I recommend you check out what their current return policy is in detail by going to their website and seeing what it's like and making sure that it's something that you're okay with. I know for me personally, having to deal with return shipping fees can feel like a huge bummer, so I really want to guarantee as best I can that I get the right size shoe without having to send shoes back and forth. But hey, sometimes you can't do that. I know even with Zero shoes, which I have been wearing a lot for a lot of years, sometimes some of those shoes I need to order a different size and I end up having to send them back and forth. But luckily in the US, those return fees are covered. The next thing we need to think about is the stack height. Are you looking for a boot that is super thin, or are you looking for a boot that's a bit on the chunkier side and gives you a lot more cushioning for your foot while you're walking through those wet winter streets? If you're looking for a thicker soled boot with more stack height, then you're good with the Lems Boulder boot, you're good with the Patrol winter boot, you're good with the switchbacks. But if you really want to get something thinner, then I suggest you look at Vivo Barefoot's offerings. They do seem to have some boots that are still quite thin, and those seem to be the thinnest boots available. Like I said earlier, it feels like the Feelgrounds Patrol Winter boot is right around the same thickness as the Lems Boulder boot, maybe a little bit thinner, and probably a little bit more ground feel in the Feelgrounds than you get from the Soft Star, because the Soft Star has these really aggressive lugs which you could probably claw somebody's face off with. The Feelgrounds Patrol Winter boot you cannot claw anybody's face off with, but super comfortable, super flexible sole, very bendy, and very nice for walking around town. And I still haven't even mentioned aesthetics, which is a fancy way of saying how these boots look. And look, this is just gonna be a subjective thing. I think that the Patrol Winter boot looks like a fairly normal boot that you can wear in the city without looking super weird or out of place. So if I were walking in Berlin or standing in line in Berlin waiting for a doner kebab on a cold winter night, I think these are pretty normal looking boots. They would be keeping my feet warm, so I like them. If, however, I were wearing something like the Soft Star switchback boots, I mean, they're just not, they don't have the look of a very normal boot. Whether you can tolerate walking around in public with a really super wide-toed, this is the primal width boot, is up to you. They do make one that's the more normal looking one. This is the full-on, full-width, primal width. So it has that very toe splay look, and it's super comfortable, but do I want to walk around? Do I want to go to a wedding in these? No, probably not. Do I want to go to a club in these? No, probably not. Do I want to go walking around in the backcountry with these? Yeah, absolutely. Go hiking in these? Absolutely. But walking around the city with a very wide, kind of clown-looking toe box, I don't know. That's up to you. Vivo Barefoots, you can see, pretty normal looking. Do you like the look of that super thin sole? Again, that's an aesthetic concern. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And then the Boulder boot looks like you live in Boulder and you're going to go to your local snowball fight and drink beers with your friends at the brewery afterwards, right? So you decide. I don't know where you live. I don't know what your aesthetics are like. I don't know what you like. Drop me a comment though. Let me know what you think is the best looking boot and why, and which boot you think fits your life better. Drop me that comment down below. And finally, we need to talk about prices. So I'm going to rearrange these boots in the order of least expensive to most expensive. So I'm gonna flip this around here, and Vivo, actually I think we'll go over here, and there we have it. So the Patrol Winter boot currently at the time of filming is $159. Then the Lems Boulder boot, if you get just the waterproof version, it's $175. But if you're gonna do that, you might as well just upgrade to the waterproof with grip. And that's only $5 more, it's $180. And then we have the Soft Star Switchback, which is $245. And finally, if you go to Vivo Barefoot site, there's a Tracker Winter boot, which is $270. And that one has the thin sole, it's all winterized and everything. It's probably super flexible. I don't know, I haven't worn it, I don't have it, but that one's $270. So if you're thinking about cost, then the Patrol Winter boots win because they're only, $150 $59. But then you will have to consider shipping, which lands at $180. If they cover the shipping within the United States, then you're basically coming out even. And then you're talking about boots that have, you know, similar stack heights. But I think if you're doing that comparison, you might want to notice that the sole here is much more flexible and bendy on the Patrol winter boots. The limbs is not flexible, but it's not as flexible. And also personally for me, I like the feel of the ankle on the Feelgrounds Patrol winter boot. It's just much more flexible and soft and cushy, where I find the Lems Boulder boot, actually of all these boots, is the stiffest ankle and is the least comfortable to me. I don't wear these that often, but just in general, the way the eyelets kind of dig in, no matter how I lace them, they just, you know, it's a great boot when I want a stiffer, more supportive ankle, but when I want to just have a nice wobbly ankle, then I want to wear something else, like the Soft Star. Like, look at that. Like, this is, it's so flexible. This is so flexible. I really like that feel. The Patrol winter boot is not quite as flexible, but it's still pretty darn flexible. It never feels like my ankles are getting pinched in much. Where with the Boulder boot, I can feel there's like a stiff support around my ankles, limiting ankle movement. So that's it for this tour of my Barefoot boot collection as of January of 2024. I hope you found this informative. If you're gonna buy the Barefoot boots, these Patrol winter boots from Feelgrounds, or you're gonna buy any of these other boots, use my affiliate links down below. I really appreciate it. It helps support this channel and helps me make more videos like this one. Don't forget to drop me a comment down below and let me know what boots you think are good for you, or if there are some other boots I should be thinking about. If you're looking for more free ways to keep your feet feeling strong and healthy, check out my free videos that I'll link to in the description box and right here. Don't forget to go to uprighthealth.com/DIY to find a program to help you rebuild your body at home. Like, share, and subscribe with the bell notification on. And as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't.